Today we're going to have our first lesson talking about the physics of a moving fluid. So let's start with a question. Here we have a pipe where one end has a large diameter, the other end has a smaller diameter, and fluid's going to flow from the left to the right. And our question is, what's going to happen to the speed of the fluid and the flow rate of the fluid as the fluid flows from the left to the right? So just take a second to make a kind of guess in your mind. And today we're going to use my friend, before we see what the simulation tells us, we're going to have my friend Bella help us out a little bit.
This is my friend Bella. She's going to help us out with a little physics demonstration. So as you can see, she has a hose with water coming out the end of it. And we want to predict what's going to happen if she covers the end, partially covers the end of it. You can go ahead. It seems like the water actually, when she covers the end of it, the water, oh, jeez. Thanks, Bella. That wasn't part of the thing, but I guess it does demonstrate that the water does come out faster.
So as you can see, Bella, at least from Bella's experiment, that when she covered the end of the hose, which was effectively doing the same thing we're doing here by decreasing the diameter of the pipe, or in that case it was the hose, that the water seemed to flow at a greater rate. So let's see what our simulation shows us. We have water molecules on the left, they're kind of dyed red so we can see them better. And as they flow from left to right, they do seem to increase their speed. And if we measure the speed, we get that they go from a speed of about 4.5 to about 9.2 meters per second, and probably even slower if we went farther to the left. So we can definitely see when the pipe diameter decreases, the speed of the fluid inside the pipe increases. Now you did a little experiment in class where you tried to figure out exactly what affected the speed increase, and you tested how the pipe diameter was related to the speed of the liquid in the pipe. And you found something similar to this, that when you plotted the diameter versus the velocity, that it looked like it was an inverse square relationship, and then when you applied the velocity versus 1 over the diameter squared to linearize it and test it out, you got a linear relationship backing up your idea that it was an inverse squared relationship, which tells us that it seems that the velocity of the liquid in the pipe is proportional to 1 over the diameter or the radius, whatever way you want to use, squared. Now we want to see if we can use some physics principles to kind of back up and justify our experimental results. So let's start by making a couple assumptions that we've made in class for the last year and a half or so. One is that that conservation of mass still holds. That's still got to be true. And since our fluid we defined as something, or our liquid we defined as something that's incompressible, that its density cannot change, that if mass is conserved and the density can't change, that means that the material is also conserved, the volume is also conserved of our liquid as it goes by. So there's conservation of volume in this case, and that the volumetric flow rate, which if we kind of look at our picture, let's label a couple things here. So we have 2 points, point 1 and point 2. We have the area of our pipe at point 1 and point 2. We also could say there's a diameter at 1 and a diameter at 2. We had a velocity at 1 and a velocity at 2. And we could say that the volumetric flow rate, which is the amount of liquid that goes past a certain point, so we can call that, it's the change in volume per time. So how much liquid flows past a point in a certain amount of time has to be constant. Because volume and because mass is conserved, which also we could say, or the amount of mass of liquid going past a certain point in a certain amount of time, these have to be constant. Because if they weren't, then mass and volume would not be conserved. You have more liquid coming in than you had coming out, and it would either have disappeared somewhere, or your pipe would actually, in real life, your pipe would actually explode, because this has to hold true. And if it gets backed up where that can happen, it means it goes out somewhere else and it breaks through your pipe. So we can say the change in volume per time is constant. We could also, some people state it as the volume in equals the volume out. Whatever way is fine. But we're going to use this idea that the volumetric flow rate or the change in volume per time at any point has to be constant to try to get the relationship we saw on the other side. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to break up volume and write it a little bit differently. If we kind of visualize our pipe as a circular pipe, we can look at our 2 points, and when we look at like kind of a short period of time, we can kind of create a cylinder representing the volume of liquid that flows over a certain amount of time. So the cylinder here would have a volume of A1 times, now we have to add a little delta X in there, delta X1. The cylinder here would be A2 times delta X2, giving me the volume of that piece. We can kind of already see if you want this cylinder to have the same volume as this cylinder, since cylinder 1 has a bigger area, it's going to have a smaller height. So that we can say that if area 1 is greater than area 2, that means delta X1 is going to be less than delta X2. And also I can write the volume that way. So if I rewrite my volumetric flow rate, I can say that and since the area of this kind of one little point isn't really changing, I'm just going to write it as A1 delta X1 per time. Actually, let's just write time as delta T. It's got to equal A2 delta X2 over the same amount of time. So just again, this is the exact same equation as that, just written a little bit differently. And now you might have noticed something from last year, that I see something familiar in here. If I look at these delta X's and T's, they kind of go together. So I can rewrite this and call this my area 1, and I'm going to write this as the velocity at point 1. And I have area 2, and then I can rewrite this as the velocity at point 2. And I have what is known as a continuity equation. Well, the continuity principle says that the volumetric flow rate is constant, and what comes out of that is this nice little equation here that says the area times the velocity at any point in a pipe where fluid is flowing, where the pipe is full, and we can assume the fluid is incompressible, so it's a liquid, that area times the velocity has to be the same everywhere. So I can pick any point, and I can write a list of these for every single point along my tube, and I can figure out the kind of how the area and the velocities relate to each other. Now, if we look back at our results, which we found out was that the velocity was proportional to 1 over the diameter squared. If we look at this, since these two things have to be constant, and these are multiplied by each other, as one goes up, the other one's got to go down. And again, we tested diameter, and since this depends on the area, well, the area depends on the diameter squared. So we get that the kind of diameter squared times the velocity has to be a constant, which gives us our relationship. Now, there's one more little piece I want to add on to this. I did mention we were using volumetric flow rate because it works with this. There is another term called the mass flow rate. If you want to get the mass flow rate from the volumetric flow rate, it's pretty straightforward. Since you get, if we go back and just say, let me just switch colors just so we can tell the difference. Remember that mass is density times volume. So the mass flow rate, so the change in mass per time, if you want to know the mass going past a certain point, is just the density times the volumetric flow rate. Sometimes you might be given the mass flow rate, or maybe you'll measure that. You measure the weight of a liquid coming out and use that to determine the volumetric flow rate. Well, if you can measure the mass flow rate, you can just use this relationship and convert back and forth from the mass flow rate to the volumetric flow rate. But the main idea is that because mass is conserved for a liquid that is incompressible, volume is also conserved. And this nice little equation comes out letting us able to calculate, if we know the velocity at one point in a tube, we can find the velocity at any other point in that tube if we know this area of that second point.